Welcome to Skinner and Chalmers Weekly Roast. Today, how to train your pet volcano. Our house runs on chaos and Magma Slush.
Greetings, cherished listeners, and welcome once more to the comforting, slightly scorched hearth of Skinner and Chalmers Weekly Roast. Pull up a chair, pour yourself something non-flammable, preferably, and join us as we navigate the delightful pandemonium that is life in meme field.
So, everyone. Or perhaps, given the events of last Tuesday, a more appropriate greeting would be, brace for impact.
Ah yes, Tuesday, a day that will live in infamy, or at least in the annals of minor household geological events. I must offer a heartfelt apology, particularly to our beloved Pet-Volcano, the volcano stew. Well, it achieved a certain vigor.
Vigor, Seymour, the kitchen ceiling still has scorch marks that resemble a map of a particularly angry nebula, particularly angry with indignation. Not volcanic fury. You tried to feed him that concoction.
It was an experimental fusion dish. Volcanic ash flakes delicately folded into a lava rock puree reduction, drizzled with, alright, perhaps slightly over-reduced, brimstone dew. I thought HED appreciate the complexity.
Krakatoa appreciates consistency, Seymour. Specifically, the consistency of molten rock served at precisely 1200 degrees Celsius. Unadulterated by your culinary interpretations, he expressed his displeasure quite vocally and seismically.
He did rumble rather emphatically. Poor Cogsworth had to postpone the Golem Union's quarterly safety review. They were just getting to the section on proper lifting techniques for sentient furniture.
The tremors knocked over the ceremonial golem grievance gavel. It took 3 junior golems an hour to write it, and the ash, let's just say our room BAS earned their circuits that day. But Krakatoa wasn't the only member of our extended family causing atmospheric disturbances, was he?
Oh, heavens no. The chaos here is multifaceted, Gary. A symphony of the surreal. Young Cosmo, for instance, had another of his spatial mishaps. I believe he attempted to teleport my morning slippers from the bedside to the breakfast nook.
And instead, they materialized inside the grandfather clock, chiming the hour with a muffled THWUNP. Took me 20 minutes to coax them out without disrupting the temporal integrity of the mechanism, or what passes for it in that clock.
It adds character. Cumulus decided to express his atmospheric personality rather amply. Our neighbor, poor Mrs. Higgins, reported a localized downpour directly over her prize-winning dandelions while the rest of Memefield basked in sunshine.
Cumulus has been rather selective with his precipitation lately. I suspect HE's developing opinions, and let's not forget the ongoing saga of Sonic's edges. Gizmo and Mr. Jellybeans conducted their morning patrol with their usual landscaping enthusiasm.
They were merely trimming, perhaps a little exorbitantly. Sonic seemed less than thrilled when he saw the new avant-garde topiary shapes they desculpted, mostly involving large alligator-shaped caps.
Dab wow's face, I tell you. Sonic used the phrase in licensed reptilian deforestation, Seymour. He was remarkably calm, considering his prize-winning azaleas now resemble something gnawed on by a prehistoric beaver. And honestly, that barely scratches the surface. We haven't even touched upon the gecko's synchronized sunbathing routine or Dav's insistence on narrating my attempts to read the newspaper in the style of a nature documentary.
Dabble believes you are a fascinating specimen, Gary. Exhibit A, the suburban superintendent in his natural habitat.
I prefer not to be narrated while trying to decipher the cryptic crossword, thank you. The point is, listeners, managing this household requires specialized knowledge, which brings us rather neatly back to the source of last week's near-calamity Krakota's very particular dietary needs.
Indeed, volcano cuisine 101, if you will. A subject close to my heart and occasionally my slightly singed eyebrows.
It's less cuisine, Seymour, and more careful geological catering, as I mentioned. Krakatoa requires sustenance at approximately 1200 degrees Celsius. We have a specialized golem-operated crucible in the reinforced shed out back. Feeding time is a carefully orchestrated event.
Orchestrated, yes. I recall adding a pinch of Himalayan pink salt once, thinking it might enhance the mineral profile. Krakatoa responded by spitting a small, perfectly formed obsidian agar that embedded itself in the toolshed wall. He's a purist.
He is a literal volcano, Seymour. It doesn't require seasoning, he requires magma. Specifically, the mineral-rich molten rock slush we source from that geological supplier Echo recommended Magma me as premium pyroclastic S. Catchy name.
Ah yes, Magma is. Their basalt blend is quite robust, though I find there in a site special reserve has a certain playful effervescence.
You find, Seymour, you are not tasting the 1200-degree magma slush. Please tell me you are not tasting the magma slush.
Of course not, Gary. Merely observing its textural properties from a safe distance, using the specially designed golem-wielded heat-resistant ladle. But remember that incident last month when the delivery was delayed due to that unexpected griffin migration over Route 66?
Vaguely, I believe I was attempting to file my quarterly superintendent reports amidst a sudden infestation of self-folding laundry.
Precisely. Well, Crocodile was becoming rather impatient. We attempted to placate him with some plain lava pebbles we keep for emergencies. Oh, the indignation.
That was the tantrum that interrupted the golem union meeting, wasn't it? The one where Cogsworth was unveiling the new flowchart for optimal pathways for dusting sentient chandeliers.
The very same. Crocodile let out a plume of smoke so dense it triggered the atmospheric sensors in the golem common room, set off the ash alarm. Cogsworth had to implement Emergency Protocol 7 Gamma volcanic ash containment and remediation.
I remember the memo. Cogsworth runs a tight ship, I'll give him that. His safety briefings are legendary. Mandatory reading for all households, staff organic, artificial, or mineral-based.
The section on appropriate respiratory protection during unscheduled pyroclastic flow events minor was particularly thorough, complete with diagrams illustrating the correct angle for deploying the emergency heat shield.
They even included addendums for dealing with ash accumulation on delicate ectoplazms icy entities, referencing the specific cleaning requirements for my banshee. Thoughtful, really. The golems take their responsibilities very seriously, especially since the wage negotiations last year.
They earned their benefits package, ensuring the structural integrity of a house containing to alligators a pet cloud and the occasionally erupting volcano is demanding work, requires hazard pay, comprehensive dental, and ample lubrication breaks.
And their union insists on strict adherence to ash cleanup protocols, no cutting corners, which reminds me, look, Seymour drifting past the window.
Ah, Cumulus sailing serenely through the azaleas, trailing a small, suspiciously gray wisp. Looks like a stray ash cloud from Tuesday's culinary experiment.
Speaking of clouds, managing Cumulus presents its own unique set of meteorological challenges, doesn't it?
Challenges? Gary H.E.S. a delight. A fluffy harbinger of indoor weather patterns. Sometimes he drifts into the living room and produces a gentle, cooling mist while we watch documentaries about competitive cheese rolling. It's atmospheric.
It's atmospheric until he decides to produce a localized thunderstorm over the antique Persian rug during my Zoom call with the school board. My meteorology hobby has become less of a pastime and more of a necessary survival skill in this house. I track Cumulus' internal pressure systems more closely than the National Weather Service tracks hurricanes.
You have that wonderful little barometer you fashioned from an old teapot and a particularly sensitive dandelion seed head. It's quite accurate.
It gives me about 5 minutes warning before Cumulus decides to practice his cumulonimbusly phase. Enough time to usually cover the electronics and warn the geckos to seek higher ground. Mrs. Trans Gecko is particularly averse to unexpected precipitation. Mr. Guy Gecko just finds a sparkly raindrop to admire.
Remember that incident last month? Poor Mayor Van Gogh. They just replenished their personal Salt Lake collection after the unfortunate pantry raid incident. They are keeping a rather impressive display of Himalayan pink Celtic gray and that rare black lava salt from Hawaii in their office.
Yes, the executive sodium reserve, as they calls it. They would left the window open for a bit of fresh air, forgetting that Cumulus occasionally enjoys a scenic drift through downtown Mingfield.
Cumulus, perhaps sensing a kindred spirit in the mineral-based display, floated right in and hovered directly over the prize-winning salt collection. And then he rained.
Not just rain, Seymour. It was a concentrated, slightly acidic drizzle. Apparently, Cumulus had absorbed some airborne vinegar essence from when you were attempting to pickle those sentient beach the week before.
The beets were being recalcitrant. Pickling seemed the only humane option. But the result, poor Van Goat salts. They didn't just get wet, they dissolved into a rather fetching multi-hued brine puddle right on their mahogany desk.
The mayor was displeased. They issued a municipal decree requiring all pet clouds to maintain a minimum altitude of 50 feet within city limits and suggested mandatory precipitation control therapy. I had to smooth things over with a promise of stricter golem-led cloud herding protocols.
The Golem Cloud Wrangling Division does excellent work. Their specialized humidity monitors and static discharge wands are state-of-the-art. Though Cumulus did manage to zap poor Golem Unit 7B last week, gave him a rather fetching static charge for the rest of the day every time he touched metal. Sparks flew. He looked like a disco ball during his polishing duties.
So for any listeners contemplating adopting a pet cloud, and I know you're out there, Lummus of Failing, I saw your inquiries on the meme-field metaphysical pet adoption forum. Be prepared. Invest in good home insurance that covers spontaneous indoor water features and potential lightning damage. Humidity control is non-negotiable. And consider hiring unionized help. Golems are surprisingly adept at cloud management, provided their collective bargaining agreement is respected.
Excellent advice, Gary. Sound practical. And only slightly terrifying. Oh, look, what's that rolling across the floor near the bookcase? Is that...
Ah, yes, that would be Cosmo, or possibly one of the puppies. They're indistinguishable unless Cosmo decides to teleport something. Let's talk spaceball physics, shall we? Or perhaps the complete lack thereof.
Cosmo and the puppies are delightful little spheres of something, of course. They are round as balls. They just roll about, emitting soft, melodic hums, except when Cosmo gets an idea. Like teleporting my teacup from my hand just as I'm about to sip. Where does he send these things?
Usually the backyard. Last week, he developed a fascination with the morning newspaper, specifically the Mainfield Gazette's Fish Fact Finny Gossip column. For 3 days straight, the paper vanished from the doorstep only to reappear, slightly crumpled, nestled amongst the petunias next to Gizmo's favorite sunning rock.
He has discerning taste. Perhaps he's curating our news intake, protecting us from alarming headlines about, I don't know, rogue garden gnomes or aggressive squirrel syndicates.
Or he just likes the crinkling sound. Their origins remain a complete mystery, don't they? They just appeared one afternoon, rolled in through the cat flap, which is odd as we don't have a cat flap for a cat. Yet
Indeed, maybe we should adopt Mr. Whiskers, but I like to imagine they're emissaries from a dimension where everything is pleasantly round and operates on principles of pure, unadulterated whimsy. Perhaps their diet consists of concentrated joy and distilled starlight, or maybe they metabolize cosmic dust. I tried offering Cosmo a Milky Way milkshake once.
And he responded by teleporting the entire blender into the bird bath. I think it's safer to assume their nutritional needs are esoteric and probably best left unmet by conventional means. They seem self-sustaining, like furry, non-furry, spherical perpetual motion machines.
With occasional teleportation privileges. Remember that rumor Master Chief mentioned? During one of his visits, I think he was advising Cogsworth on optimizing the Golem's defensive perimeter routines. He apparently confided in Sonic that he once tried to borrow Cosmo's teleportation ability.
Borrow? How does one borrow an innate ability from a sentient orb?
Apparently, it involved a complex interface using salvage for honor technology and a series of carefully modulated harmonic frequencies. Chief needed to debug Cortana's increasingly sarcastic subroutine regarding his warthog parking skills.
And what happened?
According to Sonic, who, let's face it, enjoys embellishing a tale, Cosmo didn't just lend his power. He absorbed the faulty code, teleported the sarcastic subroutine directly out of Cortana's matrix and, well, Chief suspects Cosmo ate it. He said Cortana was nervingo and polite for a week afterwards, and Cosmo hummed with a faint, electronic buzz.
Cosmo ate, I told. That explains why he tried to teleport the toaster into the modem yesterday. He's probably still digesting exodismal sarcasm. These creatures are baffling, powerful, apparently capable of interdimension travel and consuming complex algorithms, yet they seem perfectly content rolling around our living room, occasionally relocating small household objects.
Perhaps their purpose is simply to add a touch of spherical mystery to our lives, but they are also helping remember the Christmas stories on this podcast channel last year or the Forbidden Book Chronicles. These orbs are ultra-intelligent beings, unlike some of the other residents whose presence is slightly more skeletal, and smart too, of course. And wait, what was that noise?
Sounded like a clatter from the bookshelf near the antique medical texts. Must be O.L. Bartholomew. Adjusting his posture, perhaps, which I suppose transitions us rather neatly into the topic of why exactly we have a pet skeleton rattling around the place.
O.L. Bartholomew. HES, not just a pet, Gary. HES, structural ambience. And a testament to overcoming irrational fears. Remember that first Halloween episode we recorded years ago? I confessed my deep-seated, entirely logical phobia of spooky skeletons.
Vaguely, it involved you barricading yourself in the pantry with a whiskin-demanding I'd check under the sofa for rogue femurs. You were unconvinced by my assurances that skeletons generally require muscular and nervous systems to ambulate.
Details. The point is you and your infinite, if slightly dry wisdom decided the best course of action was immersion therapy. And Bartholomew, you found him at that peculiar estate sale down by the old Memefield bog.
The advertisement listed him as articulated anatomical model. Minor existential dread included, seemed like a bargain, and I reasoned having a resident skeleton might demystify the concept for you.
Gary, the first night he was here, I woke at 3 a.m. to find him sitting in the armchair by the fireplace, slowly turning the pages of a first edition of the Castle of Otranto. With bony fingers, he just turned to me saying, "Well, hello there. Old chap, what's cracking?" I was terrified and run upstairs again, and the air distinctly smelled of graveyard dust and existential ennui too.
He has refined literary tastes, and HCS remarkably quiet considering mostly, though he did somehow manage to unhinge all the kitchen cupboard doors simultaneously that one time. Claimed it was an exploration of spatial relationships and the inherent instability of domestic order. Maybe he wanted to open the surreal cupboard, finding Marvin the paranoid again, and communicate with this old being.
He communicates. I thought the rattling was just atmospheric settling.
Oh, he communicates. Also verbally, of course, even without a tongue. We already had him 3 times on this channel. He is quite communicative when motivated, usually by biscuits.
But where did he really come from? That estate sale explanation always felt a bit thin. There are whispers, you know, particularly after our adventures during the Forbidden Book Chronicles, at least from the residents in Memefield which watched it. If you haven't watched it yet, please do. It was our first audiobook with Dusser. It still used the old Tekken, sounds a bit muffled, but still, it was a fun adventure, just like the final artwork.
Indeed, but let's step back a bit. Whispers. What sort of whispers?
Listeners like Shaluha Bites have theorized that Bartholomew isn't just an anatomical model. They suggested he might be a remnant, a sort of skeletal echo left behind after we banished that infernal vegan cookbook back to the dimension of unspeakable lentil loaves.
A sentient echo of a demonic vegan cookbook. That seems unnecessarily complicated, even for Memefield. I prefer the estate sale theory. It involves less metaphysical paperwork, though I admit he does have a certain aura, and he seems to get agitated whenever Skinner is mentioned. He rattles quite violently.
Perhaps he senses the lingering malevolence, or maybe he just disapproves of poor cybernetic design. Bartholomew appreciates classic construction. Listen, clag clangor. That sounds like the 5 o'clock chime.
Indeed. That LLB the golem shift change. Cogsworth runs a punctual operation, which brings up a practical point. Managing this eclectic collection of dependents requires significant logistical planning, especially when we're both away. Pet sitting in Memefield isn't exactly straightforward.
It's an art form, Gary. A delicate ballet of scheduling, specialized instructions, and hoping for the best. We have quite the system worked out, haven't we?
We have a system born of necessity and desperation. when I'm at the superintendent's office, and yes, the superintendent's office, and yes, the superintendent's office, not the mini-intendant or ultra-intendant or omni-intendant or omni-intendant office. Dealing with budget proposals or sentient playground equipment, and you're at the school navigating adolescent angst and rogue spitballs. Someone has to keep an eye on things here.
Enter the Golem Auxiliary Caregivers. COGs were the sign shifts based on seniority and specialized skills. Golem Unit 4C is excellent with Crockett's feeding schedule, very precise with the Crucible. Unit 9 Delta has a surprisingly gentle touch when it comes to polishing Bartheme Lowe's phalangites.
And then there's the supplemental supervision. My Banshee, bless her spectral heart, does keep a watchful eye out. Her mournful wail is surprisingly effective at deterring Gizmo and Mr. Jellybeans from attempting to dig under the fence. It seems to interfere with their digging frequency.
She provides excellent atmospheric surveillance. And Dabwa, our ever-vigilant parrot, acts as the feathered overseer. His running commentary on the household's activities broadcast at top volume ensures a certain level of accountability is particularly critical of the room BAS cleaning patterns.
Inefficient trajectory supports some dust ingestion. Return to charging dock. Unit 7. Your peripheral sensors require calibration. He runs a tighter ship than Cogsworth sometimes, but even with golems, banshees, and parrots, things can go wrong. Terribly wrong.
Oh, don't remind me. The Robo-Skinner incident. While we were blissfully unaware, attending at Meanfield Community Theater production of Waiting for Gutter, but with more explosions.
Your evil twin, currently residing in the Twitch Asylum for the cyberentic ally Nefarious, managed to remotely hack into our home network, specifically into the Roomba collective consciousness.
He reprogrammed and turned my diligent little cleaning droids into agents of chaos. Their mission Operation Liberate Cosmo. Apparently, Robo-Skinner has developed some sort of bizarre fixation on the orb pets. Wants to harness their teleportation abilities for, well, knowing him, probably something involving replacing all the world's coffee with lukewarm decaf.
The room BAS, under his thrall, attempted to corral Cosmo and the puppies, presumably to transport them to Robo-Skinner's hidden lair, which we later discovered was unconventional, located behind the dusty encyclopedias in the public library.
It was sheer luck that Master Chief happened to be jogging past. He was testing out some new Molenar grade running shoes. For the commotion to brew murder, the Banshee was wailing a particularly discordant aria of distress, and the room BAs were chanting binary threats.
Chief neutralized the situation with remarkable efficiency, apparently. A well-aimed plasma grenade set to a low, non-lethal stun and disable rogue appliances setting is quite effective against hacked vacuum cleaners. He managed to contain them until we got home and I could initiate the master system reset. Took hours to purge Robo-Skinner's malicious code. The lead room kept trying to tell me my management style was suboptimal.
It was a wake-up call. We had to upgrade our pet's security protocols immediately. The experimental GPS collars for Cosmo and the puppies surprisingly difficult to attach to perfectly smooth spheres, I might add. We had to use a mild adhesive derived from snail slime.
And the cloud lace for cumulus woven from ionized silver thread to gently guide his drifting. It attaches to a small, weighted anchor disguised as a garden gnome. Seems to work, mostly, though sometimes he takes the gnome for a float.
And the lullabies for Bartheme Lowe we found playing recordings of ancient sea shanty seems to soothe his rattling fits, especially during thunderstorms when I attempt to sing opera.
So listeners, pet-sitting exotic creatures in a place like Meanfield. Prepare for the unexpected. Invest in robust cyber custody, consider spectral supervision, and never, ever underestimate the malevolent potential of household appliances. Especially if you have an evil twin with a penchant for hacking. Oh dear, speaking of potential destruction, look at the garden monitor, see more.
Oh, for the love of meticulously manicured marigolds! Gizmo, Mr. Jellybeans, get away from Sonic's hedge. Not again.
It's like a magnetic attraction, isn't it? That specific stretch of privet hinge. Every single time we let them out for their constitutional, they make a beeline for it. What is their obsession?
Perhaps it's the texture. the satisfying resistance it offers to their powerful jaws. Or maybe Sonic uses a particularly enticing brand of fertilizer that smells faintly of, well, whatever alligators find enticing. Swamp-flavored kibble, distressed flamingo.
I suspect it's simpler than that, Seymour. I suspect they just enjoy the sheer, unadulterated chaos of it. The way Sonic comes out, hands on his hips, sighing that long-suffering sigh. It's performance art for them, reptilian theater of the absurd.
We've tried everything. Positive reinforcement, though trying to negatively reinforce a fully grown alligator is generally ill-advised specialized chew toys shaped like small, annoying mammals. Nothing works. I even proposed building them their own dedicated alligator-sized obstacle course on the far side of the lawn, complete with mud pit, tire swing, and a simulated annoying neighbor's prize-winning shrubbery zone.
The Golem construction crew drew up blueprints, but the projected cost in reinforced concrete and liability insurance was prohibitive, not to mention the potential environmental impact assessment. We had to shelve the Gator Gauntlet project.
Then we had that suggestion from Rachel Rocks. Remember, during the call-in segment on Arcane Solutions for Everyday Annoyances, she offered a protective enchantment, a minor ward of hedge integrity.
Ah, yes, it involved chanting in a non-Euclidean dialect, sprinkling the hedge with water collected during a lunar eclipse, and burying 3 ethically sourced chicken bones at the base. We followed the instructions precisely. Cogsworth oversaw the ritual to ensure proper adherence to arcane safety protocols.
And did it work? The results were ambiguous. The alligators did seem hesitant to approach the hedge for about 12 hours, but then, instead of being chewed, the hedge started pulsing faintly and emitting a low hum.
And several branches sprouted small, iridescent tentacles that waved gently in the breeze. Sonic was perplexed. He said it added a certain cosmic horror chic to his garden design, but it wasn't quite the aesthetic he was aiming for. The tentacles eventually retracted, but the hedge still glows slightly after midnight, and the alligators went right back to chewing it the next day.
Perhaps the spell needed a booster pack. Or maybe alligator determination simply outweighs minor eldritch wards. We've had some fascinating suggestions from listeners, though. Rachel Rock sent in another design for a DIY perimeter trench system using recycled paddling pools and motion-activated sprinklers filled with prune juice.
Prune juice? Why prune juice?
Apparently, alligators find it deeply offensive to their palate, or possibly their dignity. Deputy S Kids for Life suggested a network of highly trained parrot lookouts basically deputizing Dabwa his cousins to sound an alarm whenever the gators approach the property line.
Dabwa already provides unsolicited commentary on everything. Making it official might just encourage him. We need solutions, not more squawking. The hedge situation is becoming a diplomatic incident with Sonic. ICS dropping hints about invoking obscure homeowner association bylaws regarding reptilian landscape modification.
We must preserve the peace. Perhaps we need to consult Swampai. As a fellow creature of the marsh, maybe he understands their motivation. Or Garfield. HES surprisingly insightful when HES not focused on lasagna.
Consulting a swamp monster and a cartoon cat about alligator psychology. Yes, that sounds like a perfectly normal Tuesday afternoon strategy meeting in Mainfield. The sun is beginning to set, casting long, strange shadows across our unique landscaping. The golems have plucked out. Krakata is gurgling contentedly after his precisely heated dinner. Cumulus is drifting peacefully towards the upstairs linen closet, and even Bar-Theme Low seems to be rattling in a more relaxed rhythm. Perhaps it's time for some reflections from the roasting check.
Indeed, Gary. A moment to distill the wisdom gleaned from another week navigating our domestic menagerie. What have we learned truly?
We've learned that volcano cuisine is best left to professionals with heat-proof suits. We've learned that pet clouds require meteorological vigilance and robust insurance policies. We've learned that orb pets may or may not subsist on cosmic energy and stolen AI super times, and that skeletons appreciate Gothic literature and art biscuit.
We've reaffirmed that unionized golem labor is essential for household stability, that banshees make surprisingly effective alligator deterrents, and that evil twins should never be given the Wi-Fi password. Valuable life lessons all.
And that even minor arcane enchantments can have unintended tentacular side effects. But perhaps the most important lesson, as always, is patience and a healthy sense of the absurd.
Beautifully put, Gary. Though, speaking of absurdity, perhaps it's time for our weekly roast of minor domestic failings. We had a message come in on the listener line. Here it is. It's from Llamas of Failing, or Succeeding. Let's play it.
Both press the play button and Llamas can be heard. Hey Skinner, hey Chalmers. Llamas here. The segment on Krakota. Quick question though. Who was responsible for replacing the Golem's lubricating oil with maple syrup last week? Cogsworth seemed sticky and slightly sweet-smelling. Just curious. Keep up the great work.
The maple syrup incident? That might have been an unfortunate labeling mishap during my attempt to create breakfast blend Golem lubricant, a fusing concept.
Seymour, you told me that was artisanal machine oil. Cogsworth's gears were grinding for 3 days. He filed a formal grievance. We had to give the entire Golem workforce an extra lubrication, breaking premium-grade synthetic oil as compensation.
It seemed like a good idea at the time, Synergy. Breakfast and mechanics, my roast. I suppose. Your turn, Gary. Any minor failings you'd care to confess, perhaps related to your attempt to explain cloud formations to Cumulus using interpretive dance?
That was a scientific demonstration of atmospheric dynamics. Cumulus seemed quite engaged until he expressed his critique via a sudden hailstorm localized entirely over my head. Point taken. My failing was perhaps overestimating the intellectual curiosity of a sentient weather formation.
We live and learn. Or in our case, we live and narrowly avoid meteorological retribution. Now, before we sign off, a little bit of audience participation. We've been contemplating expanding the menagerie.
Expanding? Seymour, where would we possibly put another creature? Between the volcano, the cloud, the orbs, the skeleton, the alligators, the geckos, the parrot, the banshee, and the small army of golems. We're practically running a biological and geological preserve. The zoning board is already giving me sideways glances.
Just a small addition. Perhaps something low maintenance, like a sentient teapot or a colony of philosophical wood lice. We want our listeners to weigh in. Head over to the comments section on YouTube or Spotify. Let us know what kind of wonderfully weird pet you think should join the Skinner-Chalmers household next. Be creative. Be bizarre. Be Minfield.
Please, listeners, exercise restraint. Suggest something small, something quiet, something that doesn't require magma or arcane rituals or specialized insurance riders this time. My sanity hangs by a thread. A very frayed, occasionally singed thread.
Nonsense, Gary. Our capacity for chaos is boundless, and on that optimistic note, it's time for us to wrap up another weekly roast.
Indeed, my meteorological forecast for the coming week in the Skinner-Chalmers household, a 100% chance of continued chaos with intermittent patches of baffling absurdity and high probability of property damage, mostly confined to the hedges. Prepare accordingly.
And I promise, cross my heart and hope not to spontaneously combust, that next week's dinner will be edible, probably-ish. Until next time, dear listeners, stay quirky, stay safe, and keep roasting.
Good night, everyone, and wish me luck with the hedge negotiations.